What's up, guys? The clip you're about to watch was taken from stream twitch.tv/realdmh. So if you like what you see, feel free to follow over there. I'll be streaming at least twice a week. It's pretty fun. I think you'll have a good time. And if you like that clip that you're about to watch, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe to stay up to date. I'll be posting clips from the VOD all the time. And I hope you enjoy. Now, this article is from MarketWatch. I grabbed it from another site, but it's from MarketWatch. I saw it on MarketWatch first. Public pension hole, now $11,000 per U.S. worker. What does that mean? Top state and local pension funds lost $250 billion during the month of June and are down more than $600 billion for the year, according to a new study. The 100 biggest public sector pension funds were a staggering $1.5 trillion underfunded by the end of June, according to the latest survey by analysts at Milliman. That funding gap will ultimately be the responsibility of taxpayers if the pension plans can't make it up through investments. The gap is equal to more than $11,000 per full-time worker in the United States. Let's break this down a little bit. This is huge. This is just talking about portfolios and just end of year returns for the bull market compared to now for stocks. So don't worry about this stuff. Let's talk about this for a little bit. Pension plans. People rely on these. When people invest their money into these pension plans, they expect them to be able to get their benefits. I want to show you something. CalPERS, the largest public pension plan in the United States. It serves and manages pension and health benefits for more than 1.5 million California public employees, retirees, and their families. CalPERS manages the largest public pension fund in the United States with more than $469 billion in assets under management as of June 30th, 2021. As of 2018, the agency has $360 billion in assets and is underfunded by an estimated $150 billion, with current assets below 70% of necessary to provide for liabilities, which means that if everyone called on CalPERS to pay out all of the money that they have promised people in the CalPERS system, they would be underfunded by over 30%. $1 and $3. They are underfunded by $1 and $3 in the fund. Are you kidding me? This is crazy. Now, what happens when these pensions default? When these people who rely on them for retirement income cannot get that anymore. It falls on the burden of United States taxpayers. And this is what happens here. Now, if you take all of the pension funds in America, lumped them all together, they are underfunded by $1.5 trillion. If pension funds were asked to deliver on the benefits they have promised people who have paid into those pensions, they would be $1.5 trillion in the hole. Unbelievable. If you break that gap up, $1.5 trillion, divide it equally among all full-time working Americans, the gap is equal to more than $11,000 per full-time American worker. If all of these pensions were to collapse, even right now at these prices, if they were called to pay on their benefits, Americans would have to foot the bill of $11,000 if they were asked to. Now, let's call it a black swan event. If and when pensions do collapse, it's going to be way more than $11,000. Anyone who has a pension is fucked. Hate to break it to you. You're screwed. Start investing your own money, not in a pension fund. I don't know if that constitutes as financial advice. I don't believe it does. You need to be investing into assets that you have direct control over. You know, there's a classical quote. The coal mine closed down and daddy lost his pension. See, when these pensions default, or when a company defaults in a black swan event, the pensions are seen as assets of the company, which means the company can use them to pay off liabilities and break even. And then hopefully walk away with a little settlement. The CEO can walk away with what's left of the pension. Americans who have paid into that don't. It's not yours. A company has promised you to pay you money from the pension, but it's still the company's. Whereas if you look at something like a 401k, an IRA, either Roth or traditional, for both of those respectively, it's yours. The assets are yours. Let's say you have a 401k with a business. The business goes bankrupt. That man in the picture looks shocked. So am I, my friend Stan. I'm shocked too. How could we have let it get this bad? If a company goes bankrupt, but you have a 401k with them, that's still yours. You can get the assets out of that, transfer it over into a rollover individual retirement account or Roth individual retirement account. But the assets are yours, not with the pensions. The pensions are the company's. It's the company's assets, and the company has promised to pay you out. But based off of this, I don't trust it. Even in these conditions, which, obviously not ideal. Inflation at the all-time high of 40 years, or over 40 years, excuse me. Markets, S&P 500 and Dow Jones down 25%, Bitcoin down 80%, Ethereum down 80%, Solana down 85%. It's only underfunded by $1.5 trillion. What happens when we see a true depressionary event? What happens when we see the black swan event? We're like in the Great Depression. From 1929 to 1933, the Dow Jones drops 90%. What happens when we see that? What happens when we see that to these funds? Now everyone's thinking, CalPERS, it doesn't really relate to me. Let me show you something that does. Any American watching this stream right now, this directly impacts you. Let's take a look. The Social Security Trust Fund. The Old Age Survivors and Disability Insurance Program, OASDI. I think it's great. I love Social Security. I think there's better ways Social Security could be managed. But let's take a gander. Social Security payroll taxes are collected by the IRS and are formally entrusted to the Federal Old Age and Survivors Insurance Trust Fund and the Federal Disability Insurance Trust Fund, the two Social Security trust funds. Social Security revenues exceeded expenditures between 1983 and 2009, so they actually ran a surplus, which increased trust fund balances, the actual principal investment of Treasury bonds. The retirement of the large baby boom generation, however, will lower balances. Without legislative changes, trust fund reserves are projected to be depleted in the years of 2034 and 2065 for the OASI and the DI funds, respectively. Should depletion occur, incoming payroll tax and other revenue would only be sufficient to pay 76% of OASI benefits starting in 2035 and 92% of DI benefits starting in 2065. Social Security is going to run out of money. They've been saying that since the 80s. That's true. I'll grant you that. They've been saying it since the 80s. But Social Security is going to run out of money in our lifetimes. Our collective lifetimes. We cannot trust Social Security. You cannot trust CalPERS. If you have a pension plan, do not trust it. Don't rely on that money. That's the game. Stan, I'm telling you, man, that's the game. It's not a good one. I don't like it. But that's what's going to happen. You can't rely on Social Security. You can't rely on any pension that you have been told that you have, that you have paid into. It's not yours. And you're not going to see it. You have to own assets that you own outright. They're no one else's. They're Damien's assets. They're Stan's assets. They are Katie's assets. No one can take them. Something that Social Security does, which I think is generally good, and CalPERS does the same thing. They have cost of living adjustments, which I think are generally a good thing. But these deplete these funds even faster. See, what cost of living adjustments do is, let's say the inflation rate increases. So let's say just in a normal market time, a stagnating market time, let's say inflation increases by 1%, 2%, let's call it 2%. On average, it's about 2.1% to 2.3% per year. Obviously, we are out of the norm at 8.6%. But let's call it 2.1 to 2.3%. Cost of living adjustments will increase the amount of Social Security that you get from 2.1 to 2.3%, respective to what the inflation rate is. So it keeps up with the rate of inflation. I think that's a good thing. The issue is when you have major market downturn like we've just seen, cascading liquidations, the trust funds and the pension plans that are invested in these markets are down 25%, and they're expected to pay 8.6% an increased cost of living. Obviously, we don't see that. It's closer to about 3%. That's the max they're probably going to do. Just because if they were to increase it by 8%, then those trust funds are getting liquidated within 10 years. So they're trying to hold off a bit. But still, the rising cost to keep these pensions going, to keep Social Security going, the increased rate of inflation is going to liquidate these assets. And you pair that with further economic downturn, you are selling more principal at depleted costs, at depreciated prices. Please invest your money into assets they cannot take from you. Don't rely on these systems. Don't rely on the government to let you live in dignity in your old age. These are the same people that run the DMV. Are you really trusting the people who run the DMV to make sure you retire with dignity? No, you need to take matters into your own hands. You owe it to yourself. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching that clip. It's much appreciated. If you like what you saw, once again, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to catch some live streams, I'll be live streaming at least 2 times a week over at twitch.tv/realdmh. And if you want to stay up to date on my whereabouts and just random stuff I see on the internet, follow me at Twitter, at RealDylanHoly. And until next time, take it easy.